подвожу.
The radar screens flickered with ghost signals deep inside Russian airspace. Silence in the command center masked the approaching storm of fire. It was January in the fourth year of a brutal war. Russian forces had expected a total collapse of Ukrainian defenses long ago. Instead, they faced a complex and evolving web of aerial threats. The winter front line remained largely frozen in a deadly stalemate. Moscow claimed its armies were marching forward with unstoppable momentum. Independent satellite analysis told a much quieter and different story. Russian troops managed only minor territorial gains during late 2025. The Kremlin boasted of conquering hundreds of square kilometers in weeks. Verified maps showed they secured less than a quarter of that. One assessment measured the gain at roughly 74 square kilometers. This was a fraction of what the Russian leadership had publicly claimed. The disparity revealed a critical weakness in the Russian offensive machine. Ukraine has successfully denied Russia the ability to maneuver freely. This denial stems from a strategic shift toward deep logistical attrition. Ukrainian planners have treated the battlefield like a vast naval theater. They realized that destroying supply lines paralyzed the heavy Russian armor. Attack drones are now assembled at secret locations in rural Ukraine. These machines fly hundreds of miles to strike hostile rear areas. Their targets include oil refineries and ammunition depots deep within Russia. The cost of these drones is a fraction of a missile, yet they inflict damage worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Strikes on refineries have forced Russia to reorganize its air defenses. Systems meant for the front line now guard distant industrial sites. This leaves Russian infantry exposed to relentless tactical drone bombardment. Analysts describe this strategy as a form of logistics attrition. It mirrors the effects of a naval blockade on land. Russian fuel supplies now travel along longer and less efficient routes. Every destroyed rail junction delays the arrival of fresh armored units. Heavy trucks are forced onto smaller roads that are easily targeted. Russia has increasingly relied on infantry-heavy tactics without sufficient armored support. Supply cuts have degraded their ability to mass tanks. This does not mean the Russian military threat has vanished entirely. Moscow still fields large formations capable of inflicting severe local damage, but their offensive power is blunted compared to when the war began. They push forward in sectors like Avdiivka with dense artillery fire. These assaults result in high casualties for very limited territorial gain. The Institute for the Study of War tracked these grinding advances. By early January 2026, the daily gains had nearly stopped. Casualty reports indicated that Russian losses exceeded 1,000 men on some days. This pattern of exhaustion followed every temporary local Russian success. Ukraine effectively traded space for time while degrading the enemy. The war has evolved into a contest of industrial resilience. Ukraine has turned technology into a primary force multiplier against mass. Engineers built a drone capability that extends far beyond the front line. Some Ukrainian models now strike targets 1,000 kilometers away. This range doubles the capability of many earlier offensive designs. The strikes have hit targets in multiple distinct Russian regions. Moscow can no longer consider its own territory a safe rear. The psychological impact of these deep strikes is strategically significant. Russian citizens now witness the war's reality in their own cities. Smoke from burning fuel depots rises over towns far from Ukraine. This disrupts the narrative of a distant and victorious special operation. It forces the Kremlin to address domestic vulnerabilities rather than attack. Ukraine controls the tempo of these deep strikes with precision. They launch waves of drones to overwhelm specific radar sectors. Naval principles of saturation and denial guide these aerial campaigns. A swarm of cheap drones functions like a naval wolf pack. They hunt for gaps in the adversary's defensive sensor grid. Once a gap is found, the main strike force punches through. This method maximizes the impact of limited Ukrainian munition stocks. It forces Russia to expend expensive missiles against cheap flying decoys. The economic exchange rate heavily favors the Ukrainian defensive position. Defense against Russian missile attacks has also improved dramatically. Ukrainian air defense networks now integrate Western systems such as Patriot batteries. Interception rates against Russian cruise missiles have steadily increased over time. During one January attack, Ukraine downed 96 of 115 drones. This defensive shield protects critical infrastructure from total systemic collapse. Russia can no longer paralyze the Ukrainian grid at will. They must launch larger salvos to achieve even minor results. This depletion of Russian missile stocks is a crucial strategic victory. It limits Moscow's ability to sustain high-intensity bombardment campaigns for months. The lights still come back on in Kyiv after blackouts. Factories restart production schedules despite the constant threat of air raids. This resilience proves that strategic bombing has failed to break Ukraine. The energy sector has adapted by shifting towards distributed power generation. Smaller gas turbines are supplementing giant power plants. These modular units are much harder to destroy with single missiles. Decentralization makes the entire energy grid more robust against attack. Global energy experts view this as a model for future security. Ukraine is writing the playbook for operating modern infrastructure under fire. The humanitarian situation remains grave despite these operational successes. Millions of civilians still require aid to survive the winter. Frontline communities live in basements under constant shelling and fear. The United Nations warned against romanticizing the population's resilience. Endurance comes at a terrible psychological cost for ordinary people, yet the state structures of Ukraine continue to function effectively. Local councils meet to plan repairs and manage essential services. Schools operate in hybrid modes to keep children in education. Power companies dispatch crews to patch the grid after every strike. This institutional continuity is a form of resistance in itself. It denies Russia the political collapse it sought in 2022. The government in Kyiv remains firmly in control of the state. Russia's narrative of inevitable victory clashes with the reality on the ground. Their claims of being on the offensive ring hollow today. Chief of General Staff Gerasimov asserted massive territorial gains recently. Detailed independent verification proved those claims were largely exaggerated propaganda. In some areas, Russian bloggers claimed territory they already held. This confusion suggests a lack of clear command and control. The map of the war looks like a rigid stalemate. A deep Russian wedge runs from the Donbas to the south, but it has not expanded significantly in over a year. Ukraine holds the line with a mix of grit and tech. Logistics strikes inside the occupied territory weaken the Russian grip daily. Fuel depots in Melitopol and Tokmak burn with increasing frequency. Rail hubs used to feed the southern front are destroyed. Drones constantly harass pontoon crossings on the Dnipro River. Ammunition dumps near Henichesk explode in massive secondary detonations. Every such strike reduces the combat load of Russian frontline battalions. Russian artillery fire rates drop when ammunition trains are destroyed. This direct correlation drives the Ukrainian targeting process every day. Commanders prioritize targets that yield the highest downstream tactical impact. A destroyed fuel train stops an entire tank battalion later. A hit on a radar station blinds air defense for weeks. This is the discipline of a professional investigative military force. They do not strike at random, they follow a systematic plan. The goal is the total degradation of the Russian war machine. Western analysts note that Russia is bleeding its strategic reserves. They are consuming equipment faster than they can replace it. Old tanks are pulled from storage to replace losses to modern tanks. These older vehicles lack modern optics and armor protection. They fall prey to Ukrainian drones with ease on the battlefield. The technological gap between the two forces is widening slowly. Ukraine integrates real-time intelligence to guide its drone fleet. Signals intelligence reveals the location of Russian electronic warfare jammers. Specialized drones are then dispatched to hunt and destroy them. Once the jammers are gone, the attack drones flood the sector. This tactical sequence repeats across the 1,000-kilometer front line. It is a slow, methodical grinding down of enemy capabilities. The winter of 2026 tests the limits of both sides. Soldiers endure freezing trenches while drones buzz overhead constantly. The mud freezes into hard ground that supports heavy vehicles, yet neither side can mass enough armor for a breakthrough. The density of surveillance makes surprise attacks nearly impossible now. Any large gathering of forces is detected and struck immediately. This transparency has transformed the nature of modern ground warfare. Large maneuvers are obsolete in the face of persistent observation. Small units operate autonomously to survive the lethal zone. Ukraine excels at this decentralized style of infantry combat. Their junior commanders have the authority to make rapid decisions. Russian command structure remains rigid and slow to react. This difference in command philosophy saves Ukrainian lives every day. They retreat when necessary to preserve their combat power. Russia often orders troops to hold ground at any cost. This results in the high casualty rates seen in official reports. Ukraine values its personnel over holding the empty ruins of towns. They trade terrain to lure Russians into prepared kill zones. The strategy requires patience and immense political will to sustain. Allies must understand that this is not a short war, it is a long-term degradation of a major global power. The outcome depends on the steady flow of Western aid. Ammunition and spare parts are the lifeblood of this defense. Without them, the wall of drones would eventually collapse. The United States watches these developments with keen strategic interest. Lessons from Ukraine are reshaping American military doctrine right now. The vulnerability of logistics is a primary takeaway for planners. Naval operations in the Pacific would face similar drone threats. Ukraine serves as a testing ground for 21st century warfare. The effectiveness of cheap autonomous systems challenges the dominance of expensive platforms. A massive warship costs billions but can be disabled cheaply. Ukraine proved this in the Black Sea against the Russian fleet. They forced the Russian Navy to retreat from its own waters. That same logic now applies to land war logistics. A refinery worth billions burns from a cheap drone strike. Economic asymmetry is the defining feature of this phase. Russia spends vast sums to achieve very little strategic gain. Ukraine spends efficiently to impose maximum cost on the invader. This balance sheet suggests that Russia cannot win a war of attrition. Their resources are vast, but they are not infinite. Sanctions limit their ability to import high-tech components. Ukraine now manufactures many of its own drones. This reduces dependence on foreign supply chains for critical weapons. It also allows for rapid iteration and design improvement. Feedback from the front line reaches engineers in days. Russian industry struggles to adapt at the same speed. Their bureaucracy slows down the deployment of new countermeasures. The invisible logistics blockade tightens by the week. Russian commanders in the field feel the shortage of supplies. They ration shells and fuel to maintain their positions. This creates friction and lowers morale among the conscripted troops. They know they are fighting a war with diminishing support. The Ukrainian defender fights for the survival of their home. That moral difference amplifies the effect of every weapon. A soldier defending his family fights harder than a conscript. This intangible factor is often missed in statistical models. It explains why Ukraine did not fold in the first month. It explains why they are still standing 4 years later. The combination of will and technology is a potent force. Russia hopes that the West will tire of the conflict. They bank on political divisions to sever the aid flow. Ukraine counters this by demonstrating results and strategic competence. They show that aid is an investment in global security. The degradation of the Russian army protects all of Europe. It effectively neutralizes a major threat to NATO without deploying troops. The stakes remain existential for the Ukrainian state today. Defeat means the erasure of their national identity and freedom. Victory means the restoration of law and international borders. The path to victory lies through the smoke of refineries. It lies in the ruins of Russian ammunition dumps. It is paved with the wreckage of the invasion force. Total war targets the mind of the population first. Russia attacks cities to break the will to resist. Missiles strike apartment blocks to spread panic and despair. Yet the intended psychological collapse has never actually materialized. Ukrainian society has hardened into a unified defensive instrument. Civilians have adapted their lives to the rhythm of air raids. They treat the threat of death as a daily weather report. This adaptation is a strategic failure for the Russian Federation. Moscow spent billions to terrorize a people who refuse to break. The resilience of the state is as vital as the army. Government ministries continue to function effectively despite the constant danger. Pensions and salaries are paid on time to millions of citizens. This financial stability prevents the economy from crashing into chaos. Ukraine keeps its banking system operational through secure digital channels. Trains run on schedule to move goods and evacuate the wounded. The railroad remains the nation's iron backbone of logistics. Every repaired track defies the Russian attempt to paralyze movement. Education continues in underground bunkers and fortified subway stations. Children learn mathematics while air raid sirens wail above them. This determination safeguards the future generation of the Ukrainian nation. Russia attempts to erase Ukrainian identity through violence and occupation, but the schools ensure that the culture survives the war. Teachers work in shifts to accommodate the lack of power. The curriculum now includes safety drills alongside history and science. The energy war remains a critical front in this conflict. Russia has damaged every major power plant at least once. They aim to freeze the population during the freezing winter. But Ukrainian engineers perform miracles to restore the lost voltage. They scavenge parts from destroyed units to fix others. The grid is patched together with ingenuity and sheer grit. International aid provides transformers to replace those destroyed by missiles. Ukraine is shifting toward a decentralized power generation model. Giant thermal plants are vulnerable targets for Russian cruise missiles. Small gas turbines are dispersed across cities to provide heat. These small targets are difficult for Russia to hunt effectively. Distributed energy makes the entire system more resilient to attack. A single missile can no longer black out an entire region. This strategic shift ruins the efficiency of Russian bombardment campaigns. The humanitarian reality remains grim despite these systemic adaptations. Border villages in the north face daily mortar and artillery fire. Many residents have fled these grey zones for safer cities. Those who remain live in basements without consistent heat or water. Aid workers risk their lives to deliver food to them. The United Nations reports that needs are growing in these areas. Endurance is not a lack of suffering, but a choice. Ukraine pays a high price for its continued national survival. The psychological toll on the population is deep and lasting, yet polling shows high support for refusing Russian territorial demands. People understand that capitulation means the end of their freedom. They have seen the torture chambers in liberated areas like Bucha. This knowledge hardens their resolve to fight on indefinitely. The alternative to resistance is not peace, but total subjugation. The United States sees a clear return on its investment here. A distinct rival is being degraded without risking American lives. The Russian military has lost decades of modernization in just a few years. Their elite units have been decimated by determined Ukrainian defenders. This degradation secures the eastern flank of the NATO alliance. It forces Russia to focus inward rather than threatening neighbors. The myth of Russian military invincibility has been shattered permanently. Western observers note the cost-effectiveness of this defensive strategy. The price of aid is lower than that of a direct war. Ukraine absorbs the blow that was meant for the West. They test Western weapons against top-tier Russian electronic warfare systems. This data improves the design of future American military hardware. The war is a laboratory for the future of high-intensity conflict. The strategic stalemate disguises the rotting of Russian combat power. Moscow hides its losses behind censorship and strict state control, but the cracks in their military machine are becoming visible. They rely on North Korean ammunition to sustain their fire rates. This dependency exposes the weakness of their domestic industrial base. A superpower should not need help from a pariah state. Ukraine fights with the backing of the world's strongest economies. This economic depth allows them to sustain a long war. Russia fights with an economy the size of Italy or Texas. They cannot compete with the combined industrial output of the West. Time eventually favors the side with deeper economic resources. Ukraine must only hold the line until Russia exhausts itself. The map of the conflict has become a static scar. Russian gains are measured in meters rather than in kilometers. They trade thousands of lives for ruined villages with no value. Ukraine retreats only when the tactical situation demands it. They preserve their forces for the battles that truly matter. This conservation of force is the mark of a professional army. Logistics strikes inside Russia will continue to shape the war. The burning refineries deprive Russia of the revenue it desperately needs. Every dollar lost in oil sales is a dollar denied to the army. The economic war is fought with drones and sanctions alike. Ukraine tightens the noose around the Russian war economy daily. The question of how Ukraine still stands has a clear answer. It stands because it has adapted faster than its enemy. It uses technology to bridge the gap in raw manpower. It utilizes Western intelligence to strike with devastating precision. It relies on a society that refuses to surrender its identity. A Russian miscalculation has forged a stronger, more unified Ukraine. The invasion achieved the exact opposite of its intended strategic goal. Ukraine is now more Western and more armed than ever. It has the most experienced army on the entire European continent. This force will anchor European security for decades to come. The war is far from over, but the dynamic is set. Russia cannot conquer Ukraine, and Ukraine will not surrender its land. The grind will continue until the Russian system eventually cracks. History teaches that hollow empires collapse under prolonged military stress. Ukraine is betting its existence on that historical truth today. The strike in Korli is not just about one building or one night, but about how war reshapes every space it touches, even those meant for rest and celebration. It highlights the strategic logic behind Ukraine's deep strikes, the information war waged by Moscow, and the tragic reality faced by civilians caught in between. In the end, the incident forces a harder question. In a war defined by occupation, can any place truly remain civilian at all? Share your thoughts in the comment section below.